Ace's Wild, Blood on the Trail, Episode 3.
Last time on Ace's Wild, Chase McCoy lost everything. And I do mean everything. Let's do hope he gets some of it back.
Tracking Chance didn't prove to be too difficult. A man, a dog, horse apples. His trail was easy to follow. The difficult part was the environment Chase found himself in. The nights were cold, a high desert nighttime cold. Not so cold it could kill a man, but cold enough to be miserable in your long johns. The daytime, on the other hand, was blistering hot. Missing his hat, Chase's face was sun-scorched. His feet were also burnt and blistered from the sun. By midday, he was leaving his own trail behind him, a trail of bloody footprints. Chase was no tenderfoot, but the desert terrain was incredibly rough and no place for bare feet. After traveling all night and half a day, Chase was losing his morale. Getting very tired, he found himself with less and less motivation to carry on. Dragging ass through the desert in his current state of affairs was definitely a low point. In one moment, Chase made a mad dash from the trail into a thicket to avoid a passerby. He did not much feel like answering questions about trudging the Badlands in his drawers. After that run-in, he was nearly ready to throw in the towel when something caught his eye. In the distance, stuck in prickly pear, Chase made his way to the spot and pulled loose a sheet of sun-tarnished paper.
That rat bastard.
He breathed, looking at the bounty.
Wanted. Chance Young, cart sharper, $100 reward?
Steaming with a new sense of bitterness, the harsh train woes were no more. Anger was the only emotion now, followed by confusion and then disappointment. But still mostly anger. Dropping the wanted poster to the ground, Chase began to wonder, was this one of the posters that kid tore from the board in town? Was that figure in the shadows Chance Young? Was I a mark from the moment I entered town? Was I so tired from the trail that I let all this slide right by me?
Yes. Yes to all.
With a new sense of urgency, Chase pushed on. Dusk was upon him now. However, he was immune to the cold, hardened ground. Revenge consumed all else. Chance had to pay, and Chase had to redeem himself, and once again, pat his dog and mount his Nessie. Stalking Chance with the intensiveness of Honey herself, Chase felt as if he was hot on the trail. Soon, those thoughts were confirmed. In the distance, he saw a campfire. He was sure it was Chance, and his confidence was further confirmed upon approach. Nearing the fire, he could hear Chance attempting to play a raspy tune on his harmonica. Then, as he came within sight, Chase could see the man sitting there, drinking his hooch, teasing his dog. Chase circled around the makeshift campsite and approached Chance from behind. Being barefoot made moving quietly that much easier. That, in Chance, was 3 sheets to the wind. Chase snuck up behind Chance and watched. He relished in the feat he had completed and bided his time for the perfect moment to enact vengeance. Chance had exacted such a scheme against him. He wanted to just strike the man in the head, but that felt lackluster. Chase wanted to shake Chance to his core. Unaware of how to play out his demise, he finally had an aha moment. Chance put down the flask he had been so consumed with to reach for a stogie. Chase didn't miss a beat. He grabbed the lighter from Chance's side. Baffled, Chance fumbled around for the lighter. Then, with a strike of flint right before his eyes, Chase barked out,
"Need a light?"
Looking like he saw a ghost, Chance dove for his pistol sitting on top of Chase's belongings. Chase, however, had already taken stock in the surroundings and was ready. The two wrestled, and Chase won. Not that beating the inebriated man was too difficult. Firing a warning shot into the air quickly ended the skirmish. Chase unleashed Honey and used the ropes to bind Chance to a tree. He then donned his attire, reclaimed his belongings, and had a nip. Laying back, he showed Chance just how the harmonica was supposed to be played. After that, he had one of the best night's sleep of his life. Honey just watched over Chance and growled. When morning came, Chase returned some favors to his nemesis, and he couldn't help but laugh out loud as Chance marched before him. He was leashed like a dog, bound at the wrist, wearing nothing but his own skivvies, dropping aces from the cuffs of his sleeves as he stepped. The motley crew walked on for some hours without any exchange of pleasantries, Chase enjoying the view from atop his horse. With a feeling and tone of superiority, Chase was the first to break the silence.
You know, you're about as hard to find as north on a compass, don't you?
Well, I didn't expect you to track me down in your underwear. That was kind of the point.
Yeah, that was a new one to me, too. Luckily, half the town's shut-ins, and the others half stoned. I might have scared some poor young lass out her mind.
Well, what now?
Now I'm not too sure. We could return to Durnville. I could turn you in and collect your reward, but I think we might move on to the next town. Someplace a little more honest. Besides, I'd like to relish in your misery just a while longer. So what was your plan anyways? Somebody hire you to do this?
Well, I'm not really a planning kind of guy. I saw you with the dog and recognized the two of you from some stories, and things just kind of happened. I followed you around town and on a whim came up with the idea of taking your money and ransoming off that famed mud of yours.
So that was you in the shadows. Paid that boy to tear down those wanted posters.
Yeah, that was. Couldn't have folks recognize me at the card table. $100? That's quite a reward for a card sharper. Didn't know I'd developed such a reputation.
Well, you know, I happened upon one of those posters in the desert trailing you. Had it not been for that reward, you might be worm food right now.
Just where we headed then? I mean, what town you thinking of?
Well, there's Dry Creek. We'll be coming up on that soon enough. But I doubt the sheriff there, he's much inclined to pay your bounty or put you up in a cell. I'll think we'll head on into Copperton.
Copperton? Copperton's fallen on hard times in Dry Creek.
Hard times? You a funny man. Copperton's gonna be the next big thing. Largest copper mine this side the Western Range.
You been living under a rock or something? Same man buying up Durnville brought in a whole army of men. Dried that mine up a couple months back. Didn't put a copper piece back into town. Just moved on.
McGregor?
Yeah, McGregor.
So how you know all this anyways?
Copperton's home. That's how.
And I suppose you had a good job at the mine, and when that dried up, you turned to a life of card sharpening? A real stand-up gent. That's what you used to be?
Well, my wife never accused me of being such a thing. But my boy, he might agree with you.
You got kids now. Got a sickly mama too, I bet. All right, conversation's over. Copperton it is.
Copperton's a full day ride from here, you know.
Yup, and it's an even longer walk.
Silence once again beset the travelers. At times, Chase almost felt bad for Chance, as his feet now showed the wear and tear of the terrain. Then he'd remembered his own previous trek. Feeling the throbbing of blisters in his boots, he huffed. Chance's time of penance wasn't over just yet. The two traveled into dusk before setting up camp for the night. Nessie had a good grooming and grub. Honey took the watch listening for intruders, but she never took an eye off Chance. A few times, Chance attempted to befriend the dog, but it was a personal rift for her. Trust did not come easy to Honey, and Chance more than betrayed that trust. Maybe if he had shared some of that jerky on the trail and hadn't teased her so much, but Chance had a malicious intent about him when he'd been drinking. Sober now, he sure had a lot to reflect on, not the least of which was what awaited him in Copperton. But he thought, maybe it was time to head home after all. Night settled in after the full day's trek. The moon waned into a crescent, and what light it did provide grew useless soon. Growing dark with overcast skies, thunder rolled throughout the distance. Chase pitched a pole tent while warming his canteen by the fire. Feeling the fatigue of the day, he threw the canteen under the foot of his bedroll and settled in for the night. No sooner had he relaxed with his head hitting the dirt before it started to drizzle.
Hey, you gonna let me freeze out here? Don't I get some shelter?
Annoyed, Chase got out from under the roll. Grabbing Chance's hat from among his things, he walked over and placed the hat on his head.
There you go. Feel free to snuggle up to Honey if it gets too cold.
Turning in once more, the rain drifted him towards sleep. The fire began to dwindle and darkness overtook the camp. Chase journeyed to rest fairly easily, Honey curled tighter into a ball near the lingering warmth of the now minuscule fire, her eyes ever peering toward the disgruntled gambler. But no sleep found Chance. The hat helped little, except for keeping his scowl dry. Hunched forward, water collected on the brim and ran down in front of his face, streaming into a puddle on the ground. The fire smoldered into nothing more than an ashy mess. Standing under a tree, Nessie did her best to stay dry as well. The only one besides Chase who didn't seem to mind the rain was Honey. The rain didn't bother her, not when she had the task of guarding her prisoner. Intent on him remaining captive, there would be no shot of sharing warmth with that dog. Time stood still in the damp cold as the thunder encroached ever closer. The drizzle turned to outright rain, and for Chance, it was quite a grim evening. By midnight, Chase was well into dreamland, reminiscing about the days of old, once upon a time when he worked the family farm. He had visions of a younger Abby as well, picturing her in a time before the war when they were both happy, sitting by the river under the cottonwood trees. Still young, he was rough with a tune, but he tried his best to serenade her with his harmonica. It was a beautiful dream. She picked up some sticks and tapped along. To passers-by, it screeched awful, but they just giggled with delight. Then things started coming together. The twigs actually started to sound like snares. The harmonica, more like a well-tuned trumpet. Truly, they quickly became masters of their craft. But the beat changed as it began to take shape into something of a march, and the harmonica went from serenading to rallying. A look of terror overcame Abby. Chase turned around, soldiers appeared from the bushes. Gunfire erupted. Smoke filled the air. In his sleep, Chase began to wince. Chance took little pity. Soaked to the bone, he created his own visions of Chase's demise, though those were more waking dreams. The thunder roared upon them now.
How's he still sleeping?
Chance wondered. Then, all at once, lightning struck, thunder clapped, and Chase was on his feet. Lightning struck again. Drenched in sweat, Chase looked as wet as Chance, but with ferocity in his eyes. Chance never could have guessed Chase's shell shock, or that he was abruptly raised from dreamland by cannon fire coinciding with the thunder. Clutching his pistol, Chase took a moment to gather his thoughts, but the moment was fleeting. Something big was moving around camp. Nessie got restless, Honey rose to her feet, and her ridge stood on end. Lightning struck again, and a rustling went across the brush. Chase moved to huddle by Chance. For a moment, he thought about arming the man. Terrified, the two just sat there, hunkered down, staring into the dark. Time now stood still for both the men. They couldn't see a thing, and Honey waited, eerily motionless. The only way Chase knew she stayed there was by her panting just a few feet away. She must have been scared too, not of the rustling in the brush, but the thunder. She hated thunder. Lightning struck again, and this time much closer. The whole world lit up. It wasn't Honey.
Bear!
Chance screamed as he dove and rolled away, hands still bound together. Chase froze, having just stared at the beast, face to face. Turning, the bear pursued Chance. Running may not be his best option, but it gave Chase a moment to react. He fired his gun in the direction of the bear, striking him in the backside. The bear's attention was now split. Standing on either side of him were the two men. Taking turns, they yelled,
Hey, Bear!
Hey, Bear!
Hey, Bear!
Hey, no, over
Hey,
here!
Bear!
Hey, Bear!
Hey, Bear!
Hey!
while pretending they were giants and as tall as they could manage, arms waving. Squinting in the dark, Chase eyed for Honey.
Where's the damn dog?
Lightning struck again. Honey cowered in the pole tent on top of the bedroll.
This is it.
Chase thought.
Death by mauling.
Stretching to full height, the bear indicated that he was indeed the much bigger threat. Then, back on all fours, he huffed and made a decision. Turning towards Chase, charging, the bear closed the distance fast, with confusion staying intense in the dark. Only the sound of giant paws interrupted the terrifying silence as nothing more than shifting, shadowy figures danced about. Chase popped off another shot at the bear, never knowing if he hit it or not. Feeling there was nothing left of the distance between bear and man, Dog finally came to the rescue. Honey would not let anything happen to her master. She dove through the air in the darkness of night, but she didn't miss her target. A fight was in motion. Chase, scared for his dog, peered into the darkness with fervid intent. The fight seemed to last forever, with Chase never taking his eye off the direction of the noise. Slowly, he backed to his horse. Everything was in turn. Lightning flashed and Honey was atop the bear. Lightning flashed again, and the bear looked to have the upper paw. Chase finally made it to his horse. Drawing up his rifle, he waited. What was happening? He couldn't see. The next strike seemed to take forever. The air weighed rife with wet fur, all senses attuned. Chase waited for his moment, and the moment struck. A flash of lightning, a clap of thunder, a glimpse of placement. The shot rang out in the dark. Emotions poured over Chase. Then, limping up, came Honey. He felt relief. Everything lay quiet now, and even the rain began to ease. Chase made his way to the pole tent and set aglow a lantern. He checked the bear. His bullet struck true, dropping the bear right in the head. He then checked his dog. Honey was hurt. She needed attention, but her life stayed unthreatened. He checked for Chance. Chance and his belongings were gone. Carrying Honey back to the tent by lantern light, he tended to her wounds. There were a few skin tears and a couple of puncture wounds, nothing too serious. The skin tears he sutured up himself, something he learned in the army. But the puncture wounds needed a veterinarian's care. She'd have a few more battle scars, but that was nothing new to Honey. When Chase first adopted the poor mongrel, it took her 2 months before she put together that cactus was sharp. Wasn't until she got a face full, chasing a skunk, that she even seemed bothered by the pain. After tending to his dog, Chase tidied up his things and broke down camp. At sunrise, moving a little slower, they continued onward toward Copperton. Chance fell back to second on Chase's mind now. First and foremost, he needed to find aid for his dog. He had not given up on, once again, tracking down Chance, though. Still wanting to collect his bounty and regain some pride. Funny enough, the thief still seemed to be heading in the same direction.
Is this guy Daffy?
Chase wondered, following his boot tracks in the mud.
Daffy indeed. Don't he know that Chase is hot on his trail? After he gets his dog taken care of, that is. Oh, this is getting good.